Hello and welcome to another episode of NewsX Deep Dive with me, Vineet Malhotra. Today we are looking at Fujian, China's newest and first self-designed and built aircraft carrier. The addition has enabled China to surpass India, the UK and Italy, who each operate two carriers, although it remains well behind the United States, which operates 11. China's latest and most capable carrier is a significant step forward for Beijing as it seeks to catch up with the United States on naval supremacy. Chinese President Xi Jinping attended the commissioning event for the Fujian at a military port in Sanya earlier this week. Reports suggest that the decision to adopt the technology was personally made by Xi himself. So what is the Fujian? How does it work? Why Beijing cares? And what it actually changes at sea? Let's dive in. Well, the Fujian is a conventionally powered aircraft carrier that has become the third carrier of the Chinese aircraft carrier program, as well as China's first indigenously designed and built carrier. Launched in June 2022 and commissioned on the 5th of November of this year, it is China's first carrier capable of catapult-assisted takeoffs or CATOBAR, a naval aviation system for launching and landing fixed-wing aircraft from an aircraft carrier. The system uses a catapult to launch aircraft and arrestor wires on the flight deck to stop them upon landing, allowing heavier aircraft and payloads to be launched more quickly and efficiently as compared to other systems. One of the things grabbing eyeballs is the carrier's systems. The Electromagnetic catapult system is a new technology allowing planes to take off with heavier weaponry and fuel loads so they can strike enemy targets at greater distances. The only other aircraft carrier in the world that has the EMAL system is the US Navy's newest carrier, the USS Gerald Ford. EMALS matters as it increases sortie range, payload and operational flexibility. This means fighters can not only take off with more fuel and weapons, fixed-wing early warning aircraft can operate from the ship rather than rely solely on helicopters or shore bases. In short, catapults change what the carrier can do. Launched in mid-2022 from Jiangnan shipyard, Fujian began sea trials in 2024 and carried out multiple trial cycles throughout this year. Now, on 5th November 2025, the ship was officially commissioned at a ceremony in Henan. More than 2,000 Navy and aircraft carrier construction personnel looked on from stands along the dock as President Xi Jinping an honor guard in a flag ceremony for the commissioning. The Fujian's official commissioning has been highly anticipated in China, where the country's rapid military modernization, including the expansion of its navy, has been a deep source of national pride. On Chinese media and social media, news of the commissioning is being greatly celebrated with headlines and posts on my country's first electromagnetic catapult-equipped aircraft carrier enters service, raking up more than 10 million views in the space of an hour. China has built the world's largest navy, launching high-tech warships at a frantic pace under Xi's leadership as the country has become more aggressive in asserting territorial claims in the contested South China Sea and increasingly looked to project its naval power in the region and further afield. The carrier is China's first to forego the ski jump-style ramp used on the flight decks of the country's smaller existing carriers, Liaoning and Shandong, to get aircraft airborne under their own power. The vessel has been praised within China as a proof of the country's emergence as a major aircraft carrier power. However, differences still remain. In terms of sheer number of ships, Beijing's navy is now bigger than Washington's, and Chinese shipyards can churn out new builds at a far higher rate. But the US maintains a significant technological advantage and can field far more aircraft carriers. Nuclear power gives the US carriers the ability to remain at sea for as long as crew provisions last. The Fujian, like other Chinese as well as Indian carriers, is powered by conventional fuel, meaning it must either make a port call or be met by a tanker at sea to refuel. It's important to keep in mind, however, that China is already in the process of building another carrier, for now known as the Type 004, which is expected to not only employ EMALS technology but also, unlike the Fujian, be nuclear powered. China has been expanding its navy at breakneck speed under Xi, putting pressure on the United States and its allies to keep up. Regional military attaches and analysts say that they will be watching upcoming deployments, trying to gauge how quickly the Fujian is able to become combat ready by monitoring flight operations and efforts to combine its operations with support ships and submarines. Analysts believe that it will be at least another year before the Fujian reaches full operational capability. China's increasingly capable military and ability to project power globally is one of the reasons the Pentagon, in its latest report to Congress, continued to call it the only competitor to the United States, with the intent and increasingly the capacity to reshape the international border. With the Fujian, China's warplanes can not only deploy from its shores, but the country may well be able to realize a number of its goals, including dominating the waters of the South China Sea, East China Sea and Yellow Sea, as well as asserting power deeper into the Pacific near the second island chain, where the US has important military facilities on Guam and elsewhere, causing much interest in its latest military acquisition. Let's talk about this and get some more insights. Joining us on the program is Commodore Anil J. Singh, former Navy officer. Commodore Singh, always a pleasure having you, sir. Well, sir, first up, two parts to my question. What do you make of China's proficiency as well as its frequency in coming up with these carriers? And secondly, do you think that this is more to do with optics than China actually realizing that it could go up against the Americans on a number of fronts? I spoke about the South China Sea, I spoke about Guam, but also the Taiwan question is also something that has been bothering China for a very, very long time. Is this some sort of a muscle flexing, optics, saber rattling, or just an actual preparation for an eventual war?
Thank you very much for having me on your show. This is indeed a very remarkable achievement on China's part. There is no doubt about that. The Fujian is an 80,000-ton carrier, and don't forget, China started building carriers just a few years ago. Liaoning, of course, was an ex-Russian carrier, incomplete, which China picked up from there and completed it. Then Shandong was built by China, but it was quite similar to the Liaoning, and now we've got the Fujian, which both those carriers displaced about 50,000 tons. The Fujian displaces 80,000 tons. That puts it in a category of very large aircraft carriers. Of course, not in comparison, like you mentioned, to the American super carriers, which are all in the region of about 100,000 ton capacity, gross tonnage. So certainly a very impressive achievement. China has been expanding its navy, as you mentioned, at a very remarkable pace. They've been commissioning 15 to 20 major warships every year on year, and there seems to be no letting up in that program. They have a very formidable, of course, now 3 aircraft carrier fleet, a 4th aircraft carrier on the way, perhaps nuclear. They have some of the world's most powerful destroyers, the Type 055. They have some of the world's most powerful and largest amphibious expeditionary ships, the Type 075s. They have ballistic missile submarines. They have a nuclear submarine force, which is expanding rapidly. They have a large flotilla of conventional submarines. They are exporting defense equipment to many countries, a lot of them in our vicinity. So I think overall, China is paying a lot of attention to its Navy. In fact, many years ago, I think it was around 2012 or 13, that the Navy was declared the senior service in China, and the focus shifted towards developing a blue water Navy, which China has done in less than 5 decades. It has, as you mentioned, it has the largest Navy in the world today in terms of numbers, though it lacks the capability and the firepower of the US Navy, which has been at sea for much longer and which is truly a global power projection force, which China as yet is not. But that does not detract from the fact that China is heading towards that number. They intend to have more than 430 ships by 2030. And going by their current building program, that is not unlikely. So obviously, this force that China is developing, at the rate at which it is doing and the technologies which it is adopting, EMALS is there only on one carrier in the world today. That's the Gerald R. Ford, the latest US Navy carrier, and is a hugely expensive system which requires a lot of power to operate. And if China has been able to develop its own version of EMALS, that's a fairly remarkable technological achievement. There's no doubt about that. So from a point of view, as you mentioned, of their frequency, their technological prowess, certainly China is doing extremely well. Insofar as why this carrier, is it optics? Is it going to be a major sort of force multiplier for the Chinese Navy? Well, it's not optics. China has got a very distinct maritime agenda. They want to be the world's most modern military by 2035. They want to, the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation has to happen by 2049. The focus is on maritime because maritime dominance is key to global power. History has proven that, and China is following exactly that model. So the focus, as I mentioned, on the Navy, on bigger and larger ships for a very powerful blue water power projection capability. It doesn't need this kind of capability to defend only the first island chain,
Enough,
which
sir.
includes Taiwan and adjoining seas like the South China Sea. This is its attempt to become a powerful blue water navy which can operate far beyond its shores across the oceans. So that is the ultimate intent. And China is going about it very systematically. Not only are they building a very powerful navy, they are creating a very sort of robust network of ports and bases along the path right up to the Atlantic with strategic locations in the Indian Ocean. They're exporting weapons to countries which they think are strategically important to them. So it's a very sort of structured way that they're going about their maritime strategy.
Fair enough, sir. Appreciate you taking out the time and speaking with us and sharing clarity on this deep dive episode. We take a short break on that note. More news and updates coming up on the other side.